any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously, believing it to be true, and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
And do you declare and affirm?
I do.
Thank you. Welcome to Brant County Council.
Thank you. And do I sign this for you?
So welcome, Ella. Take your seat as the Brant County Councillor for Ward 5. Congratulations. It was noted you worked very hard. I saw you working very hard a couple of times, so congratulations. Takes us to number 5 on the agenda, which is the approval of the agenda. Is there anybody that has anything they want to add to the agenda? Councillor Miller?
One item under other business, Mr. Mayor, regarding ATVs.
Regarding which, I'm sorry?
ATVs.
Okay, ATVs. Anybody else have anything to add to the agenda? Councillor Oakley?
Through Mr. Mayor, if I may request that we move item 18 to immediately preceding item 15. So council updates immediately after other business, just so it's not after our in-camera and bylaws and all of that good stuff.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, Councillor Kyle, you have the agenda as amended.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor House that the County of Brant Council agenda and addendum of March 24th, 2026 be approved.
All those in favor of the agenda the way it sits? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Does anyone see any that are obvious? If one crops up, please let me be the first one to know. Delegations. We have a delegation 7.1, which is Janet Fever from this morning for the OPP. If you want to just come up to the podium, please, and just give us your name and who you represent, and then you can start with your presentation. We do have a hard copy of your presentation in front of us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I'm Janet Fever. I'm with the OPP's Municipal Policing Unit. We're based out of Orillia. I'm pleased to be here today. I'm a civilian with the unit, which means I'm not a police officer. We work in a hybrid unit, actually, with a number of civilian and uniform members. I'm pleased. Can you hear me okay? Wonderful. I'm here today to talk to you about how the OPP delivers services, how we bill for those services, what you pay for, what you don't pay for as a municipality, as well as a look at the bill for Brant County. So I'll jump in here. This first slide is a picture of our commissioners, Commissioner Thomas Carrique, and he's standing there, and I've got our vision on the slide as well, which is safe communities and a secure Ontario. I raise this because it really does capture how the OPP delivers service. We have a unique mandate to deliver local policing as well as provincial services. So safe communities is our local policing through our local detachments. The Secure Ontario are all of our provincial responsibilities, which I'm going to talk to you about today. In our detachments, we have frontline officers working in multiple municipalities, delivering both provincial and local policing all at the same time on the same, in the same shift. They're doing this work. It really does allow for efficiencies within the OPP in terms of how we deliver service, flexibility, and it allows you to enjoy economies of scale with the OPP. It does create a unique need, though, because we need to track all of these activities that our officers are doing throughout any given shift, and we need to sort those out so that we can bill municipalities appropriately as required under the legislation. To do this, we use a system called the Daily Activity Reporting System. We call it DAR. DARs are done by every OPP employee for every call, every bit of work they do during the day. So officers, for every call they have, they enter how long they've been on a call and where it is. In other systems, they enter details of that call, and then our analytics team teases out the data and is able to determine what services have been delivered to which municipalities so that we can bill fairly. So municipal policing recoveries. In 2026, the OPP estimates to recover $527 million from municipalities across Ontario. This is for services such as frontline staffs, frontline constables, supervisory staff, civilian support staff, as well as other direct operating expenses, or ODOE, which can include vehicles, uniforms, equipment, radios, IT, our training area, our detachment guards, and our communications operators. So all of these are recoverable under legislation, and the OPP uses that DAR system to tease out appropriate data so that municipalities can be billed. On the other hand, for provincial responsibilities, these responsibilities are delivered to every community the OPP polices when and if required. There is zero cost recovery for these services. So if someone goes missing and there's a big ice rescue, there was, I think a few weeks ago, a big ice rescue, that those people were rescued, there was a call for service, and there is no cost recovery to the municipality for that service. So provincial responsibilities include things like aviation services, organized crime, aircraft enforcement, policing of the waterways, trails, and the King's highways, field intelligence, tactics and rescue, negotiations, underwater search and recovery. The list is a long one. They're not all included here, but it does give you a sense of services that are available to whoever needs them in the province as required. And as mentioned, there is no cost recovery to municipalities for these services. I mentioned earlier that the OPP estimates to recover approximately $527 million from municipalities across the province. This is broken down into three main components, and we'll talk about those in a few slides. They're called base, calls for service, and other. So we'll break down this wheel a little bit. We have a financial services unit back in Orillia who teases through that data that I mentioned, and they analyze our data using a rolling average, a rolling four-year average. And this allows us to eliminate any spikes and peaks in the data that will avoid unfavorable financial outcomes for our municipalities. So it evens out the curve, if you will. Our cost recovery process was intentionally built to rely heavily on these averages, which reduces the potential impact of unfavorable year-over-year spikes. And as mentioned, we use 4 years of data. So now we'll break down that wheel a little bit. I mentioned the three main components of a bill. Two of them are listed on this slide: base services on the left and calls for service on the right. Base services can be thought of as the fixed component of a bill. The costs we're recovering under base services are considered to be the costs of officers deployed for proactive policing services, such as routine patrols, traffic complaints, victim assistance, crime prevention, Liquor License Act enforcement, and court administration. Also included in base services are activities such as training and administration. The OPP polices 1.26 million properties across the province, and each of those has a base service applied of $203.05 as the fixed component of their bill. On the other side of the page is calls for service. This year, it's calculated to be $212.9 million. The costs allocated to calls for service is considered to be the cost for policing services that are typically reactive in nature, and they usually require a police officer's attendance. These can include crime calls for assaults or fraud, motor vehicle collisions, missing persons, and domestic disturbances. This can be thought of as the more variable component of the bill, and the calls for service component of the bill is unique to each municipality. There is a slice of the wheel that was not covered there, so on this slide, we'll dig into that a little bit. We see that $22.7 million was estimated for overtime based on a four-year average of actual activity. After several years of reduced activity related to the pandemic, prisoner transportation activity is slowly rising. And to the right, we have a separate wheel because things wouldn't fit. And we see there are additional costs that are recovered from municipalities that are specific to other factors, which include whether they provide the facilities to our members to operate out of, if the municipalities have a responsibility to secure a court, and if there are enhanced services provided to them in accordance with a separate agreement, known as a Section 17 agreement for additional services, and Brant County does have one of those for 2 additional traffic members. When we calculated the 2026 cost recovery of $527.4 million, we realized there was a sharp increase over the previous year. When compared to the previous year before discounts, it was an increase of 6.2%. But then after the discounts, it was a very, very sharp increase of over 18%. So the ministry realized that they should take a look at the billing model and see if there's something they could do to offer relief to municipalities. As a result of that review, the ministry put in place a one-time 11% cap on the total payable bills. That's over the previous 2025 bill. And they also adjusted the criteria for discounts. There are some municipalities, very few of them, typically in the far north of the province, that have they're extreme outliers in our calls for service activity. And so now using statistical analysis, if those municipalities are within 3 standard deviations instead of 5 standard deviations, they're eligible for a greater discount under the legislation. I would like to point out that the primary driver of the increase in costs are the salary rate increases included in the most recent 2023 to 2026 collective agreement. Other factors include the impact of Bill 124. It was a 1% cap that resulted in underestimation of salaries. As a result, there was a catch-up period, and it compounded for municipalities. FTE levels are also rising, so that we can deliver services adequately across the province. And prisoner transportation, court security, and overtime activity, these billing components are reconciled for activity and are impacted by both the salary rate adjustments as well as the volatility of activity levels. So I've mentioned a lot about expenses and funds that the OPP recovers on behalf of the provincial government, but I'd also like to take a moment to draw your attention to some efficiencies that the OPP is pursuing. We continually strive to use technology to improve process, productivity, and service delivery. I've listed just a few of them on this slide. Call diversion. There's calls directed to crisis workers and provincial communication centers. There's 911 call diversions, and a redirect to a frontline support unit. So the frontline support unit also includes online reporting. A new platform was introduced late in 2025. And one of the nice things about online reporting, members of the public can report things on their own terms, on their own time. Members of uniform members do investigate those instances, and it does not generate a call for service that the municipality is billed for unless an officer is dispatched. So online reporting can help save calls for service in the municipality. There is also crisis call diversion, where a trained mental health and addictions crisis professionals can help de-escalate a situation. They can streamline access to mental health supports. And we've found that this not only saves officer time, but it also helps reduce the number of unnecessary referrals to emergency rooms. On this slide, I hope you can see it better on the screens in front of you. My apologies for the horribly small font. It is a screen capture of the front page of Brant County's 2026 billing estimate. I've put in different boxes the three main components of the bill. Base services is the first one. Calls for service is the second. And overtime and prisoner transportation is the third. I draw your attention to the very last line on this page, and it says the capped payable for 2026 is lowered the billing amount by just under $900,000. So that 11% cap has resulted in savings for Brant County. We have a lot of resources available on our webpage at opp.ca. I encourage anyone, members of council, members of the public, if you're curious, go on and look. There's lots of detailed information on there about how bills are calculated. We'll walk you through a bill. And we also include other resources, such as the one that I've captured on this slide. It allows anyone with internet access to compare municipal policing costs, OPP municipal policing costs by municipality or detachment. So if you believe there's a comparable municipality out there by property count or other characteristics, you're welcome to go into this tool. You can filter by detachment or by municipality or any of the others if you like, and it will filter through. There's a separate handout, which I'm happy to walk through in a moment. I was at a meeting this morning, the detachment board meeting, and it was requested that we look at some surrounding counties. So I used this tool to come up with the additional attachment that was handed out tonight. So you see we've got Brant County, Brant County Detachment, Haldimand, Norfolk, and Oxford detachments. The municipalities covered by those detachments are on the left. We see the property counts and the discounted property cost for every one of those detachments. And that is the discounted per property cost. I did this for you this afternoon, so we could talk about it if you like. The information for 2026 is not yet on the public-facing website, but it will be within about 2 weeks. It's going through French translation right now. But I was able to access it for conversation today if it's of interest. In April of 2024, the CSPA came into effect. And what that did, there were a few notable changes. It repealed the Section 10 contracts that the OPP had with some municipalities, introduced the need for separate contracts for reciprocal policing services, introduced detachment boards. There's a greater focus on First Nations, new reporting requirements, as well as the introduction of the Inspectorate of Policing. In the interest of time, I won't go through a great deal of those. And here we have a number of resources that are available, just links. You're welcome to visit these references at your leisure. There's the Inspectorate of Policing there, as well as the Ontario Association of Police Services Boards. I understand they're a great resource to the boards, but sometimes municipalities as well. The last slide is my contact information. I invite council to get in touch if there are ever any questions, council or staff. And the detachment commander and I are available to respond and support you in any way that we can. So thank you very much for your time today, and if you have any questions, I'm pleased to take them.
Thank you very much. Can I get a mover to get this on the floor, please? Councillor Howe, seconded by Councillor Coleman. Are there any questions to the delegation? Councillor Bell, you're first, then Councillor Miller.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming along. I understand this is the second time you've done this today, so well done for that. Quick question. The base service is a function of the number of dwellings, if I understand it correctly.
Correct.
We are a county that is growing quickly. I mean, even from 25 to 26, the number of dwellings increased by 4%. So I guess we can anticipate a regular, somewhere between 2 and 4% increase for that part of the service every year going forward, before we start looking at the impact of inflation and salary increases. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, we get the data annually through MPAC. So whenever the MPAC data is affected by the new growth in your area, that is when it would be reflected in the policing bill.
Yeah, so the point I'm going to make is, for anybody listening, that one of the big increases in our budget this year was OPP costs. And, you know, part of the explanation is we're a growing community, because part of the policing cost is a function of how big we are. So I think it's really just a bit of a warning shot across the bows to our community that you can expect the OPP line in our budget to keep on growing quite significantly as we go forward. One more question, if I may, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the comparison with other regions and municipalities. How does the cost of policing compare with the cost of policing in urban centres like Brantford or Hamilton?
I'm afraid I don't have information about their policing costs at my fingertips.
And the reason I asked that question is just a few years ago, we went, and I guess it happens every council term, we asked the question, do we continue with the OPP or do we look to other solutions? Because there was one time a Paris police force, which then moved to become the OPP service. So I guess that same question will be addressed in the next term of council. And I think it would be helpful at some point to have that information. Not necessarily from you, Janet, but for the next council it would be helpful. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think the numbers are something, 5 million for us and 55 million for the city of Brantford. So that's the kind of span it is. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's something like that.
Yeah, it was on a per person or per dwelling basis.
Yeah. Councillor Miller, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple questions through to the presenter. You're showing the 2026 calculated billing for us at $7.5 million, correct?
I'm sorry, which document are you looking at?
I'm on page 12, the costs, the calculated billing,
Thank you.
costs after additional service, 7.5 million. Now, we're gonna pay a little less because it's been capped, I understand. But the cost to run that OPP station and all the police, it's a little bit more than 7.5 million. Do you know what the total cost is to run our detachment?
I believe the municipality provides the location,
Yeah,
because there's no accommodation cost on here. So I don't have the information on what it costs to run that facility.
I guess, okay. So, let me ask, let me come at it another way. Do we have OPP that are dedicated to 403 enforcement, operating out of our detachment?
I know there are officers dedicated to traffic. I don't know if they're dedicated to the 403 at this time.
Okay,
That's something we can look into and I can get back to you on if you like.
all right. Then you won't know the answer to this last question. Then I was just wondering what share of our costs of the fixed costs of the OPP station, clean, all that, does the province participate in, right? So, given that there's 403 enforcement, and well, probably Highway 24, because that's a provincial road too, but those costs, we wouldn't pay for those. Those would come from the province, yes?
Thank you. I believe you're wondering about all the provincial services that we are provided from the Brant County building that they provide.
Right. Do they help pay for the,
It is roughly 50-50,
is it?
roughly 50-50, yes.
Okay. All right, that's good. And then one other question. You're showing the recoverables from municipalities at 527.4 million. What does it cost to run the OPP in the province of Ontario?
I didn't include that on this, in this presentation, and I don't want to misquote because we've switched years. I want to say last year it was over $1 billion.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm afraid I don't have the figures in front of me at this moment. I don't want to misquote.
And in that billion, I'm going to assume is everything, the cleaning costs, the wages and pensions?
I believe so.
And who,
Well, salaries and wages. Pensions are handled through a pension fund. That
no,
would be separate.
but that's still a cost. And who's the pension with? OPP? have they-
Ontario Pension Board, I believe. Yes.
No,
Ontario Pension Board?
it'd be the Ontario, would be OMERS or? No, because the Ontario Pension Board, they oversee the pensions, but they wouldn't be administering that.
I know that the OPP Association is my association, and my pension statements say the Ontario Pension Board.
Okay, all right. Okay, last question then. And I was wondering about this. We know where the money's come from, the province and municipalities, which is just over half, it looks like, if it's $1 billion. Is there any other sources of revenue for the OPP?
I'm aware of one, and it's because I help administer the contracts in my area. It's a very small source of revenue. It's called PSAP services. PSAP services are the primary touch point for 911 services. We offer that to any municipality in the province, or sorry, any entity in the province who wants to deliver 911 service to its constituents. So the OPP does offer that as an additional service, but the money goes to Treasury Board, as do the funds we recover from municipalities. They go right to Treasury Board.
Okay, so, because I think some people think tickets, speeding tickets and seatbelt tickets, that money doesn't go to the OPP.
That money, there can be arrangements made with municipalities and MAG on how that money, how funds are dealt with that way. Proceeds of crime, ticket funds, all that stuff, that's worked out through MAG.
What's his mag's name?
Sorry, my apologies, Ministry of the Attorney General,
Okay.
through the court system.
All right, okay, thank you very much.
Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a kind of a quick question, not the same kind of deep dive that Councillor Miller was doing, but in a different direction. And I understand that you're here to speak on, to educate us and the public on the dollars side of it, and this was very helpful. Earlier this evening, I was in a conversation with Councillor Haley, and I enjoy being able to say those words, Councillor Haley, about the relationship with the OPP and with the county and with council, and maybe in a future presentation we could explore this a little bit further. But I was pointing out that from conversations with past detachment commanders, I learned, and most people don't see this, but we pay $6.6 million or whatever for our OPP service, but council doesn't dictate how the OPP spends their time. And I think that's a significant message in the education of the public, and just to clearly show people that my understanding again is that the OPP determines their own priorities based on their own statistics, based on endangerment to life. And that's how the OPP decides how to spend their time. And I think as we're talking about the money side and how much the municipality pays out of your $527 million or what, all that, but it's just because we're paying the bill doesn't mean that council is dictating how the OPP spends their time. I just want to try and reinforce that. We have a police services board where there's communication efforts and good relationships, but most constituents don't realize that we don't determine the priorities of the OPP.
You are correct,
So
yes.
I just wanted to reinforce that for those who are listening, and maybe that's something we could discuss a little bit further in a future presentation.
Certainly, I actually had a little information in this presentation originally about detachment boards and their role and the difference between a detachment board and a police services board. My apologies to stick within the time frame. I cut it out. If I were to put both of them in a nutshell, I would say a police services board has more of an employment style relationship, and they determine the priorities of the police service. You're absolutely right. Whereas an OPP detachment board is a civilian advisory board to the local detachment. The OPP, we use our analytics, we use our other priorities, our strategic direction, our strategic plan, all to determine how our resources are deployed. You're welcome.
Any other questions to the presenter? Seeing none, we have it on the floor. We have a seconder to receive. Everyone's good with that? The vote is to receive this information. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is number 8, which is the adoption of the minutes from a previous meeting, which was February 24th. I believe Councillor Coleman has that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Bell, that the County of Brant Council minutes of February 24th, 2026 be approved as amended.
Does anyone have any concerns about the minutes of February 24th, 2026? Seeing none, call the motion to receive the minutes. All those in favor? Opposed and carried. Is there any business arising from those minutes? February 24th? Seeing none, keep going then. Number 10 on the agenda is the consent items. There are no consent items to be approved. We'll go down to 10.2, which is consent items to be received, noting that there's 10 of them. Can I get a mover to get it on the floor, please? Councillor Oakley, looking for a seconder. Councillor Kyle, thank you. There's 10. Does anyone, Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just a question on, I guess it's 10.2.3, and the other one is 10.2.7.
Anybody else want anything separated for discussion? Seeing no others, let's vote on everything but 10.2.3 and 10.2.7. All those in favor to receive them. And we'll go back, Councillor, to 10.2.3. And what do you?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. So I guess it's on page 2 of the report. It talks about reports. And in the second paragraph, it talks about the budget is 98.77% spent, with some 2025 invoices still to be posted. Staffing costs were higher than anticipated due to changes resulting from the county's market review project. Can I understand what that is?
Hopefully someone from the library board can speak to Councillor Pierce. Allison, you want to try?
Through your worship to council. So we did a market compensation review internally. Now, we do not set the salary rates for the library staff, but they often look to us for comparison. My recommendation last year, and I'm not certain, maybe members of the library board can confirm if this was ever done, that they set their own grid, because they, at that time, were suggesting salaries that were out of line with what ours were, and it was throwing off our grid. So it was just a bit simpler, I think, to have them on separate salary grids, because again, we don't tell the library what they should be paying their staff and vice versa. So I believe there was a separate grid created at that time, at least that was my recommendation. But I know that's how it came about, and I can't speak to whether that was actually implemented at the library.
Councillor House?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and just further discussion on that. I don't trust my memory well enough to give you an accurate answer, but we do have a library board meeting tomorrow night, and we could request a Friday file note to answer your questions.
Perfect. If we could, I'm just curious, because if, from what Allison, our CEO is saying there, if it's a different, units that they're using, then I'm trying to understand why the county's market review project would have cost more. Anyway, if you could do that, that'd be perfect.
Councillor Bell, you have something to add?
Yeah, just to say that, at least in my time in the library board, we don't get around to that level of detail, but what I can say is that 98.77% was a preliminary number, as is indicated there. When the final numbers came in, I think it was almost bang on 100%, which I think is pretty remarkable. If in my time in private industry, I put a budget forward and it came in at 100%, I would think well managed.
So we'll go down to 10.2.7.
Yeah, so that's on page 77. So I'm just curious here, and I guess bad on me, are we to see the in-camera reports from the library?
Don't think so, but I can ask. We never have, Allison said.
Okay, okay, that's fine. I was just curious, because it's funny, it started, went in, went out, done, so. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we could just double check with, tomorrow night at the meeting, Councillor Howes, you're getting some information for us, so you might as well check on that too to make sure that the answer's right.
Sure, yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Indeed, and timely, we're probably due for an update on in-camera subjects. So we can take that to the meeting tomorrow night too.
Thank you. Nothing else for 10.2.7, so we'll call the vote on both 10.2.3 and 10.2.7. All those in favor to receive? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Committee reports, 11.1, which is the Administration and Operations Committee report, which is Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Chambers, that the Administration and Operations Committee report minutes from March 17th, 2026 being approved, noting there's 12 recommendations.
Questions to Councillor Pierce on his report? Knowing that it's a very big report, lots of information. No questions? All those in favor to receive the report? Thank you. Okay, 11.2, which is the Paramedic Services Committee report, and that's Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Pierce, that the Paramedic Services Committee minutes of March 18, 2026 be received as information, and there's no recommendations there, as everything was an information item.
Okay, questions to Councillor Miller on his report? Seeing none, we'll call the vote to receive the report. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Staff reports. We have a 2025 year-end review, and that's Haley. Can I get a mover to get on the floor, please? Councillor Kyle and Councillor Pierce.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of council. Thank you for having me here tonight. This is by far the best report I get to write every year. So thank you to Mayor, members of council, staff, and the community for all your hard work that makes this year in review possible. Why we do a year in review? A year in review is really helpful for the county to take stock of all of the great work that's happening across the organization. It helps us reflect on annual progress and prepare for a successful year ahead. It helps us recognize staff achievement and contributions. It keeps council and the community informed and helps to enhance transparency. It helps drive investment and interest in our community and also enhances community understanding of the county's work and the scope of work. So I could talk about all of the accomplishments of staff in the county for many hours, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'll keep it very focused. The report this year was organized by our strategic pillars. So it's organized into 5 different sections. And I've just pulled out some kind of key statistics and metrics from each of those sections to highlight for council and the community today. So the first is economic and financial resilience. So staff have taken and made immense strides to support economic and financial resilience at both the county level, but also in the community as well. So some highlights that you'll see reflected in the report this year is significant growth in industrial, commercial, and institutional construction value. Specifically, industrial value rose by over 400% from 2024 to 2025. We saw the completion of our 2025 annual review of the long-term financial plan. The county was awarded excellence in business support and economic development for the work in the downtown dig. Staff supported 36 special events through the SEAT program, drawing an estimated 128,000 attendees to support economic and cultural vitality within the county. And staff also had a record high level of grants received this year. We applied for and received over $45 million in grants to support the costs of growth and infrastructure in the county. The second pillar in our strategic plan is about focused growth and infrastructure. And so within 2025, we completed our first ever housing needs assessment and the growth tracking model, which will help to guide sustainable and effective growth for years to come. Our operations department coordinated, planned, designed, procured over $96 million in infrastructure projects. We supported the design and construction of major infrastructure like bridges, culverts, roadways, and we also invested heavily in community assets and emergency infrastructure to meet the growing and evolving needs of the community. Supporting a healthy, safe, and engaged community has been a priority in the past 2 strategic plans and continues to be important moving forward. Some highlights that you'll see reflected in this section is a high level of participants in our recreation programs, specifically with seniors. We saw investment in accessibility upgrades across our facilities and a real strong emphasis on improving pedestrian safety, community connectivity, well-being, and belonging through things like automated speed enforcement rollout, sidewalk repairs and upgrades, and also our Brant Transit program as well. The fourth focus is stable and responsive governance, and there's a number of key metrics included within the report that I would encourage folks to check out. But some high-level notes from this section is our customer service team supported excellence by responding to over 48,000 phone calls. We saw our modernized workplaces being introduced within 2025, adoption of a number of digital and software-based tools to support enhanced service delivery and foster transparency, and a number of new and emerging leaders supported through our Future Ready leadership training offered by Mohawk College. And finally, a new strategic priority added in the most recent strategic plan, environmental sustainability and climate action. In November 2024, the county approved our first climate action plan, and since then we've been working on implementing that with the help of our new climate action specialist. So throughout 2025, we applied to 5 different grant applications to support the climate action work, received over $80,000 in funding to support climate adaptation, supported the installation of over 6 EV chargers with some more grants in the works now, and also planted over 7,000 trees. So all that to say, lots of great work happening across the County of Brant. Just another thank you to the mayor, members of council and staff, and community partners for all your hard work and dedication throughout 2025. I would encourage folks to check out the full year in review online. We will also have paper copies available at customer service locations as well. And stay tuned, we're going to do a better job this year of highlighting some of our successes on social media as well throughout the year of 2026. Here to answer any questions that staff have about the report. And if there's any specific questions about anything embedded within it, I encourage you to connect with the relevant departments and divisions for future connection.
Thank you for your report. Councillor Howes, your first question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Haley. This is a phenomenal report. If it's just so informative. It's a little bit like a report card in the sense that, we're covering different subjects and kind of how are we doing. When I went through when this arrived from Friday and I went through it, I immediately was screen grabbing the by the numbers sections, just that part. And I shared all of those on social media, proudly highlighting all the tremendous work that our staff do. It's really, really a strong report. So thank you to you and everybody involved. We can all feel really, really good about the work that's being done in the County of Brant by staff. Specific to the communications of the report, and you just touched on, we're going to do better about telling our story a little bit more, and I see that Susie's here, and our communications team is fantastic. But I would like to see us doing a little bit more, because the more people understand about all these little details, the better. And I had feedback from people immediately when I posted about this saying, wow, like that's, now you start to see where the tax dollars go. And it's a story worth telling, and I like the idea that you're talking about having paper copies available at the service offices. So even like people who are not social media savvy, or they're not internet savvy, they're not necessarily subscribing to Engage Brand or whatever, they can drop in, get the full report, and digest it all. So thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. A couple comments if I could. Yeah, great report. It's fantastic. A few things that kind of jumped out to me was on, what is it, page 6 of the report, I guess. And it's hard to fathom this. 386,611 people used our trails. That's over 1,000, and that's 1,059 a day. That's fantastic. And you could pick a number out of the air. I don't think anybody would pick that our trails are used that much. So I think that's great. And then you take the other one, the riverfront access. 95,000 people went to our riverfront access. I think the counters that we've put on there are definitely paying for themselves, so we can see how much they're used. So that's on the, if you want to look at it as the, bringing people to and using things of the county. But then we switch over on page 127 when it talks about, I'll group them all into emergency services. Fire services responded to 1,145 incidents. That's 3 every single day of the year. People don't understand that. Paramedics responded to 33,866 calls. That's 92 calls a day. People wouldn't understand that. Again, the information here is, I'm sure, shocking for a lot of people, but it is the facts. And then look at our own enforcement officers, 2,414 calls. That's 6 calls a day for every single day of the year. And, it goes to show you that there's a lot of stuff happening in the county with on that particular page with our emergency services, but also the number of people that are using our trails and using our riverfronts and that type of thing. If you put it together, it's almost 500,000 people with our trails and riverfront. And I'm sure that, some of those are from the county, but a lot of, I would hazard to guess that, a high percentage of those are people that are coming into the county and using those trails. So yeah, absolutely fantastic day. And there's more information in there, but just a few of them that kind of jumped out on me. It's like, you see the numbers and it's like, no, it can't be, but it's the counters that are doing them. So thank you very much.
Mr. Billy, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a story going around how when President John F. Kennedy was touring Cape Canaveral, he stopped and he asked the janitor, he says, what do you do here? And the janitor says, I'm helping to put a man on the moon. And I think the story just shows that, everybody that works for the county is part of the team, and it doesn't matter what they're doing, we're all working hard to deliver good services. And I thought your report highlighted that, right? So And I know the reports are available online and at the customer service station, but I'm just wondering, how do we drive home to the fact that we're proud of the staff and the work they do and the good work they do? We want them to keep it up, but how do we recognize that?
We pay them,
Well, we pay them, I know, but sometimes you want to just go that
and
little
we
extra.
keep them happy. I know that if you talk to the staff in the county of Brant, in comparison to other places, they're very glad to be here. And it's because we treat them properly and because we do thank them. I don't know about everyone else, but I thank them as often as I can, because your story of the janitor putting a man on the moon is exactly right. It takes everybody at every level to get to a successful conclusion, so.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I think this is a good opportunity to recognize staff. I mean, I just look at the volume of email I have with some of the staff, and they always respond and stuff like that, so, I don't know. Just let them know.
It is, we have an amazing story in the county of Brant, and I say it as often as I can, because we do belong to different organizations outside of Brant, and every time Brant County comes up, it's a good news story. So other people know about our successes, but sometimes maybe we don't know, or we don't think we're as successful as we are, but we are very successful. Councillor Bell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the report. I have a slightly different take on this one. What this story tells is that at the big picture level, we do an awful lot. If you ask the man or the woman in the street, are you happy with what the county is doing for you? It's very unlikely that they will think about the big picture. They will say, did I get my bridge or did I not get my bridge? If I got my bridge, great. If I didn't get my bridge, the county is awful. And I think this report actually is really helpful in terms of saying, just step back. You know, just drop that issue for a minute and look at the big picture. And we are providing a terrific service. We're doing an awful lot. I do think we could have been slightly more humble and said there are a few things we didn't actually finish or we didn't do as well as we wanted to do. And there's another piece that I would put in if there was an opportunity to edit it, and that would be to say, how do we compare with others? And budget is a good example. You know, yes, our property taxes went up, but if you look around, they didn't go up dramatically more than anybody else's. In fact, we were at the lower end of it, as we saw recently from a presentation that Heather Boyd gave us. So I think it would be helpful to put just a fraction of balance in there that says, you know, we're really good, but there are some things we can still get better at. And by the way, when you compare us with other people, we're actually really, really good.
Any other comments? Councillor Haley.
I thought it was an excellent report, and I just saw so many documents that I have to catch up on and read because it kept referencing the documents. I thought it was really well done. One request, because I live on the trail, I noticed when you did the trail count that there's no trail counter on the Paris to Dundas trail. So that's just a request. And then what I'm hearing from people in Ward 5 is page 10, they would like the automated speed enforcement brought back. That's what I'm hearing. And but thank you, I thought it was excellent.
Any other questions, concerns? No? Well, thank you for that. And what's in front of us is to receive it as information. We have that. Everyone's clear on what we're voting on. All those in favor to receive as information? We had them over in a seconder. Didn't we? Councillor Kyle and Councillor Pierce. Yeah. Okay, we'll just call the vote again. All those in favor? Thank you. 12.2, and that's the clerk. She's going to report on the Ward 5 by-election results. Get down the floor, please. Councillor Oakley and Councillor Coleman. Oh, she has no presentation. You have the results of the election in front of you. It's just to ratify it. Everyone's aware of the election results. Councillor Oakley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and if this is the appropriate time to ask clerks, I'm just curious, you know, part of the conversation we had back when we were deciding whether or not to appoint, go with a by-election, so on and so forth, you know, we were interested in using this essentially as a pilot for, as we're going to be using this for the general election. I'm just curious if we learned anything out of the new all-online process, anything we were able to catch and fix, or things we need to improve for the general. Just curious from that aspect.
Through your worship to Councillor Oakley's question, that's a great question. This was actually a really good opportunity to test out the system for the main election. Of course, this was a smaller scale with a smaller ward, especially population-wise, but all things considered, especially with a rural ward where we were concerned about voter turnout, it was very good. The only thing that we would change for the fall is, not change, but the difference would be is that the ballot would now include multiple offices and not just for one seat. We're also looking at different wards, or all the wards, and in terms of in-person voter assistance locations, we're looking at having 2 locations per ward. So again, it's just scaling the election that we just did right now, but the general takeaway was that a lot of the skeptics left the election happy. There were obviously just 1 or 2 that were still unhappy from what we heard directly. I'm sure there are more out there, but overall, it was a really good election, and we hope to replicate it again for the fall.
Thank you.
Any other questions to the way that the election rolled out? Ella, you found it.
Yeah, a lot of names were not on the list, and I know that Ryan was excellent, you could call in, but a lot of names were not on the list. And some people that, you could go to a library, but there was no library, the Scotland Oakland Library was not open on the 2 election days. So if we were to make, you know, I know you could go to a library, but it wasn't open. And then I had some 80-year-olds and 90-year-olds on strike. They did not trust the system. They wanted the old-fashioned voting system. They were upset. So just some feedback.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? On the floor, it has a seconder. All those in favor to receive as information? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to 12.3 on the agenda, which is the BIA Residential Permit Parking Program request. Get on the floor before Greg starts. Councillor Pearson, Councillor Bell, and Greg's going to speak to it.
Good evening. So this report responds to the March 17th, 2026 delegation at the Administration Operations Committee meeting, requesting changes to the Paris Residential BIA Permit Program. Changes requested include relocating the 10 spaces from municipal lot number 2, which is across the street here, to lot number 3, the Cenotaph lot, reducing the monthly parking permit fees from $120 to $90, and allowing residential Paris BIA landowners to obtain permits for untenanted units. So staff do support relocating the spots from lot number 2 to lot number 3. That was part of the original proposal. We're not recommending any changes to the fee structure at this point. There is a fulsome report that's coming in July. We're going to be evaluating this program probably in the late spring or early summer. Allowing landowners to hold temporary permits may provide some flexibility during leasing or sales transitions periods for new and existing dwellings in the BIA. So if approved, landowner permits would be subject to several conditions as outlined in the report. There's a whole list of them. Some are standard, some have been added specifically for this type of permit. So the report, we are seeking direction from council. And should you wish to proceed in allowing the temporary permits for BIA landowners, we are recommending bringing forward specific amendments to the parking bylaw schedules and updated application forms at the April 14th, 2026 council meeting. Happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Howe is your first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, for the benefit of people who are tuning in at home, we will have the same number of available reservable parking spaces. We're just going to split them up so they're not all over here. Some are going to be over there, if I understand that correctly.
That through the mayor, yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
But we're
And
still gonna have 20 spots.
we're still gonna have 20 spots, just some of them are gonna be over there instead of all back here
Correct.
in this proposal. And is there any communication plan for letting the property owners in downtown Paris know of this change?
That's something we're gonna have to discuss internally for sure before we let the permits out. Likely there should be some communication to let everybody know. And I think, you know, the whole concept behind these permits is we want them to be equitable, right? So everybody should have equal access. So that's the intent. So we'll certainly prepare something at council's direction for sure. And I'm assuming that's where we want to go with this.
Thank you. I do think that would be equitable and fair to all of the landowners downtown.
Councillor Oakley, you're next.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just, are we just taking questions right now or comments as well on the motion at large?
Questions or and comments?
Okay, so first I'd like to request that when we get to the vote, that we split the two actionable clauses. And then my comments would be, I'm happy to receive the proposed information, but I won't be supporting the latter clause. I think as highlighted in the report, you know, we're coming forward with a assessment of this program in the future, so I think the first two changes are premature. We can handle that when we get the full report in July. And in terms of equity, I wholeheartedly oppose the latter clause, which would be allowing landowners to purchase these or rent these spots. I think intrinsically, as highlighted within the report, the delegation's looking to monopolize 5 of the 10 spots to be moved. I fear that this would ultimately become monopolized by some of the wealthier landowners, as opposed to being equitable for all residents within the downtown. Thank you.
Other comments? Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, through you. So I just want to confirm, if we're moving 10 spots back to the cenotaph, with what needs to be finished on the main street, there's going to be no staging of equipment or anything over there?
Through the mayor, that's correct. We've checked with operations and there will be no staging of equipment. There's no plan for the use of that lot.
Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Okay, now Councillor Oakley's asked for it to be divided. Can you read the first part?
Through your worship, just to clarify, so the first one is just to receive this information, and then the second one was to direct staff to bring forward the necessary amendments, all that, okay. So if you want to call the vote on
Yeah.
receiving
So the
first.
first one is just to receive his information. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. And then the second one?
And that council directs staff to bring forward the necessary amendments to Schedules 14 and 15 of the County of Brant Parking Bylaw Number 4-19 to the April 14th, 2026 council meeting, should council wish to approve the recommendations contained in this report.
Everyone's clear? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Noted. Takes us to number 13 on the agenda, which is communications. Get it on the floor, first of all. Councillor Coleman, looking for a second. Councillor Kyle, thank you. It's just to receive his, Councillor Oakley?
Yeah, through the mayor, I wasn't certain exactly how I wanted to respond to this, but I just wanted to sort of share a personal anecdote that, you know, I know folks who have had a very similar experience to the individual who sent us this petition. Folks who didn't thrive in a traditional school environment has thrived here, and the programs as suggested, even though there's more funding coming with it, won't be served well by these changes. And I would encourage them, as they mentioned in their email, that they've sent this off to the school board trustees. You know, that's the appropriate place to send it, but I just wanted to empathize with the person sending this, that I think this will have some serious impacts on some of the students who utilize this program in space.
Any other questions? Councillor Howes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and in full agreement with what Councillor Oakley is saying, but do we have a procedure for responding to people who are looking for action from us on a subject that is out of our hands? Like, we really don't have, like, a lot of people don't realize that we have little or no influence over what happens in schools. Where the schools are, when they get built, like, we don't have a lot of input or control on that. I'm just, when somebody submits a concern or a petition or whatever that's related to schools, do we actually respond to them and say, here's where you might want to aim your efforts?
Through your worship to council, so it depends, I think is the answer. It depends how it comes in. If it, this, for example, was sent to clerks to be on the agenda for awareness, there was no specific sort of request for us specifically. If a request were to come in through staff, then we would certainly direct them somewhere else. But we don't have a procedure typically in this scenario, but certainly on the direction of council, we can reach out to the petitioner, or person who submitted this, and give them that information.
Through your worship, just to provide some clarification on this item, the person originally submitted a delegation request for this, and she didn't know that she had to come speak to it, so we've since moved it to communications. She really just wanted to be able to get the QR code out there so people can go scan it. She wasn't really asking anything of council specifically.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll call the vote. All those in favor to receive? Opposed? Carried. Takes us to 14, which is the resolutions. That's Councillor Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've written another essay here, so I'll start now. Whereas good governance of the County of Brant requires a complete, updated, and clear procedural bylaw, and whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario recommend a thorough review of a council's procedural bylaw once per term, and whereas the County of Brant has not performed a comprehensive review of the procedural bylaw during the 2022 to 2026 term of council, and whereas the 2022 to 2026 term of council now has 3.5 years of experience with the current procedural bylaw and thus will be well informed of ways to improve the policy versus a brand new council, and whereas the 2022 to 2026 term of council is well positioned to provide recommendations to the upcoming 2026 to 2030 term of council, therefore be it resolved that the council services staff perform a comprehensive review of the County of Brant procedural bylaw and provide council with a report detailing potential changes to the procedural bylaw by the end of the September cycle, and that the current council of the County of Brant provide the next term of council with its recommendations for changes to the procedural bylaw to be approved by the next term of council, and I can speak to it if I get a seconder.
Looking for a seconder. Councillor Kyle. Okay, Councillor Oakley.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. So I brought this forward. I had been reading some AMO reports and stumbled along stuff relating to a procedural bylaw, and I thought back to one of the very first training sessions we had around this council table recommending that we review our procedural bylaw, and we haven't gotten around to doing that yet. I felt it was appropriate. And I've left it open for clerks to do a review as they see fit, as they are the experts in the procedural bylaw, and doing an environmental scan of that. And just to sort of highlight the timing and framing of it, particularly that I'm looking for this council to provide recommendations to the next term of council. I did clarify with staff, we, even within a lame duck council term in September, could still approve these changes regardless. It's well within our rights to do so. But I did feel that we're informed enough to make sort of those changes now, but I didn't feel it appropriate that we would go all the way of actually making the changes, just provide a documentation for the next term of council to approve that.
Okay, comments, questions? Councillor Miller and then Councillor Pierce.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question. to our clerk. There's an election coming. I know we'll be taking up some of your time, and I just wonder if maybe the clerk could speak to the capacity of the clerk service to do this.
Through your worship to Councilor Miller. So we've talked about this with our group, and we should be able to work on this during the summer when council's recessed during August. So we'll start working June, July-ish, and we should be able to get a fair bit of work done in August so that we can bring it to the policy meeting in September.
Councillor Pierce?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. That was one of my questions, do we have the capacity to do this? But my next comment is the fact that even if we do have the capacity to do this and we take the time to do that and put forth recommendations, the next term of council can do what they want. So I'm not saying that that we shouldn't do it at some point, but we can recommend whatever we want to the next term of council. They don't have to follow our recommendations at all. So I'm curious as to, I'm going to use the term value add, even though there is value at revisiting it, but the value add for us to be doing this and then recommend to the next term of council to, as it says, to be approved by the next term of council. So we're saying, here, we did the legwork for you, just approve this. I'm not sure that that's the way it would unfold. So I don't want to, again, it's not a waste of staff time, but I don't want to waste staff time doing something that could be for naught.
Councillor Oakley, you're next, and then Councillor House.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. So just to sort of address that, I think, at least from my own perspective, again, referencing back to that first training session, one of the things that was highlighted and has driven me crazy the entire term is it was highlighted that we read our bylaws 3 times. And one of the things that trainer recommended to us is that we get rid of that. It pantomimes what, the provincial and federal legislature do, but we actually have no function for us reading the bylaw 3 times. I can think of the number of times on one hand that we've interacted with our bylaws like that over this term of council, like very little, if at all. But at that point in time, as a new, junior councillor, I didn't have much experience to make those types of changes at this time. I feel like we now, all around this table, have that experience and can offer that to the next term of council. I feel like, at least for myself coming on, would have appreciated something like that to give us the go-ahead, at least with some ideas of changes to make. I'd also be comfortable if we wanted to make those changes within the term of council, but I just felt, given the timing, that this would be a more appropriate direction.
Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did want to respectfully offer an alternate view to Councillor Pierce's position. I believe we're going into an election next fall where there could be a significant number of new faces around this table in every ward, any ward, anywhere around this horseshoe. And those new councillors are going to have plenty to learn and plenty to do and plenty to absorb in their early days. And I think it would be beneficial for them to come into an updated version of this rather than for them to have to focus on it at all. That's just my 2 cents.
Any other comments or concerns before we call the question? No? Okay, so we have a seconder, right? Second, Councillor Kyle? Okay, so we have something in front of us here. We read it. We understand it. We've commented on it. Call the vote to adopt it. All those in favor? Opposed? And carried. Thank you. Other business, Councillor Miller, you want to talk about ATVs for a minute?
Yeah, my apologies, Mr. Mayor, I'm not the sharpest light bulb in the box. I can do this under councillor updates.
You want to do it under? You can do it now if you want.
Okay,
Yep.
I will. we think warmer weather is coming, so when that does come, we're going to see more ATVs on the road. And Councillor Chambers and I, we've already gotten an email about the ATVs out in Scotland. So I know we addressed this last year. We notified the OPP. We put out a communications and a couple other things. So just, I just don't want the actions we took to be one-offs. I think this needs to be done on a continuous basis. So I have touched base with Cindy on that, and she will take a few steps as well. So just bring it to the council's attention that it'll continue to be a problem. And I see north of the Nith, when we're doing that, there's a big problem there with ATVs as well. So yeah, just letting everybody know we need to stay on top of that. I don't want to lose sight of that.
No, you're right, Councillor. Even in St. George, with the nice weather, we've had the windows open a few nights now, and they're there. You can hear them a little bit with the windows closed, but now that the windows are open, I mean, the cars, of course, with no mufflers are back. I forgot about those until now, and now they're back. But the ATVs in St. George are out and about already. And it is a problem. It's a very real problem. And with the temperature of people right now, someone's going to get hurt. You know, you start running ATVs through people's fields and messing up their crops and things, and with the mud. And you know what? I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, there's one farm in St. George that says trespassers, ATVs will be shot. I mean, it's. I'm sure they're not going to shoot them at first, but I mean, if you do it 2 or 3 times, they might get a couple of tires missing. Councillor Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, just to echo Councillor Miller's comments, I did happen to see on the county social media today, they did have the first post out about the ATVs and keeping them off the roads and that type of thing. So thank you to staff for that, but I agree it's probably not a one and done, probably something we need to continually remind the community about.
Councillor Oakley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, a wholehearted agreement with all my colleagues around the table. And just to sort of piggyback off of what Councillor Kyle said, I also read the comments on that post, and there's a lot of people commenting that, well, we hate fun in the county. And I think it behooves me to highlight that we don't hate fun. You are actively endangering people, endangering your neighbors, yourself, damaging people's property. It's not just fun, you're being disruptive and destructive. And I think that's something that the public may need to take into consideration with that. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Haley.
I noticed in Mount Pleasant, there was a really nice day during the election, and the dirt bikes were, the ATVs were on Mount Pleasant Road, the dirt bikes and the ATVs were on the trails, you know, a whole whack of them, so.
I don't know why the police can't do something about them, because they're not to be on the road and they're not to be on other people's property. So even if an ATV is sitting in someone's driveway and it's not on a trailer, I don't know why the police can't go to the door and say, what happens next? Because, I mean, to move it is to break a law. So why is it sitting there? So I don't know why people aren't, the police aren't more active as to saying, like, why knock on the door and say, like, what are you going to do this afternoon? Because they're not to be, if they're not trailered, they shouldn't be in someone's driveway. I mean, it seems heavy-handed, but I mean, it's better than getting shot. Anyway, we're now going to go to 15.1, which is purple benches. Councillor Oakley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I saw this news article the other day, and I had had a previous conversation with some of our service providers for gender-based violence, and I just thought it was appropriate to bring up in this venue and perhaps ask the question of staff if this is something we could look into, especially considering, you know, I know out front here we're going to be putting in benches, street furniture, downtown Paris, and I'm sure there's other parts of our community where we're going to be getting similar pieces of furniture. And if we're going to be getting this furniture anyways, it seems like a low-cost way that we can raise some awareness, keeping in mind and being respectful in regards to the taxpayers that we're already investing a lot in this area. So finding a way that we can coordinate the fact that we're already getting street furniture and supporting this cause, I think would be worth looking into.
Allison?
Through your worship to council, you're correct, we will be replacing street furniture, certainly downtown Paris. It's something we can certainly do here, and we can look at, as we replace things throughout the county, potentially to do more upon council direction. But certainly the ones we're already replacing, we could sub one of these in the downtown Paris.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No. There still is a list where we can put in memoriam on benches, isn't there? We had someone pass away in St. George the other day who's been a big part of downtown St. George for 50 years. He and his wife had stores amongst them, and he passed away, and I said to them, they asked about a bench, and I said, I think we're still doing that, aren't we? I'm gonna talk to Phil about that.
Through the chair, we are, so.
So there's
Yep.
a list, so that just
We
comes
can,
through
we can speak further about that later.
comes to
Yeah.
your department, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Anything else before, I'm sorry? Counselor Oakley?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Burr, I just want to clarify whether or not we need that as a motion, whether or not we're happy with that being staff direction, or where council sits with that.
Allison? Motion would be good, so make your motion. Look for your seconder. Counselor Kyle? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? And carried. There you go. Anything else we have to talk about before we go in camera? Seeing none, Counselor Oakley, you're gonna, Counselor Chambers? Counselor Chambers? Yes, are we moving 18 up? I'm sorry, we're moving 18 up now. That's right. Okay. Counselor Oakley, that's you. Sorry?
Council updates.
Oh, Counselor updates. Okay. Still you, isn't it? Did you want to speak to that?
Through you, sir, no, sir, I was just looking to move it up, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Counselor Chambers?
Yes, I do have one thing that I'd like to bring up this time, and that is on my way to the meeting this evening, I came across a very large farm equipment, John Deere drill, 20-foot wide, et cetera, which reminds me that in the upcoming weeks, from April on through May and June, there are going to be a lot of large farm vehicles on the roads again, and I would like, hopefully, that the communication department makes people aware that the best thing to do is be patient and let these things go down the roads without being silly about it. So if communications can update again the time of year that large equipment is now going to be on the roads, that may shock somebody into being patient on the roads as they encounter big farm equipment.
Anybody else have anything? If it suits council, can we put this back to the way it was before, so that this is always before we go in camera? Is that okay with everyone? It seems misplaced where it was, and Councillor Oakley has done this twice now, and so I think that he really does feel that it should be the other place, and it does seem like it should be a little bit closer. So if it's okay with council, I don't think we have to vote. Okay, that'll be part of the procedural bylaw update. Councillor Pierce. So next turn, Council.
So, question, if we're doing councillor updates, do we need other business?
No, it will be in place of other business.
Perfect.
Is that okay? Can we make that decision ourselves, or do we have to wait for something to come down from the top?
Well, maybe, I'm hearing here, maybe we do need other business.
Well, just to clarify, other business is supposed to be specific to counselor responsibilities. The counselor updates portion is supposed to be more informal, just things you want to share. So you don't really need to move it around. It's just, hey, there's an event happening this weekend, I'll be there, come support, those kinds of things.
Well, let's put them both then side by side, because obviously they don't like it this close to in camera. Is that okay? Everyone's okay with that? Anyone really opposed to that? Done. Thank you. We'll go back now to in camera. Who's taking us in camera?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Miller that the County of Brant Council convene in camera to discuss S 239K, a position to be applied to negotiations carried by or on behalf of the municipality, correspondence, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Office of the Provincial Land and Development Facilitator, and S 239-2C, a propose or pending acquisition or disposition of land, S 239-2I, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to the municipality, to S 239-2K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, Administration and Operations Committee in camera report, March 17th, 2026, and 239-2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, Brant Municipal Enterprises in camera report, March 19th, 2026.
All those in favor to go in camera? We're going to take a bit of a break here, about a 15-minute break. Yep, have to do it. We'll come back in 15 minutes. we're back in open session.
10-minute break.
First thing we're going to do is we have to ratify Councillor Pierce's report. All those in favor? Consider it ratified. Takes us to number 17, which is the bylaws. Who has them for 5 times? Councillor McAlpine, you have to do them 5 times. Go ahead.
Okay, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Coleman that bylaws number 34-26 to 40-26 be read the first time.
All those in favor of the first reading of the bylaws? Can you do it again for me, Councillor McAlpine?
Okay, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Coleman that bylaws number 34-26 to 40-26 be read a second time and all preambles and clauses be adopted.
Are there any questions to the second reading of the bylaws? Noting that there's been 3 times during this term of council that they've been questioned. I was counting them. All those in favor of the second reading of the bylaws? If you could do it one final time, Councillor McAlpine.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Coleman that bylaws number 34-26 to 40-26 be read a third time, passed, signed, and executed.
Thank you. All those in favor of the third and final reading of the bylaws? Opposed? Carried. Councillor updates have already been done. The next meeting is going to be April the 28th at 6 o'clock here. Again, welcome Councillor Haley to a very exciting council of Brant County Council. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Haley, we stand adjourned.